Hi, Henry at Tech Advisor here, and we are here to talk about the Galaxy S10 phones. We have all three, the Galaxy S10e, the Galaxy S10, and the Galaxy S10 Plus. Now, some of the videos you may have already seen in and around YouTube, including from us, were from the launch event for the S10 phones. We are doing this video about a month after that. I personally have reviewed all three of these phones for Tech Advisor. Check out the written reviews in the description. And I'm now going to take you through the differences between all of them, what I think of each one of them, and which one is best for you to buy. This is the Galaxy S10 versus. Okay, so let's start with what we all know. We have the Galaxy S10e. It is smaller. It's a bit like the iPhone XR of the lineup, like you have the iPhone XR, XS, and XS Max. Samsung has somewhat mirrored that by having a cheaper version. And then you have the S10 in the middle, the Goldilocks Galaxy, as I called it in my review, because we think it's just about right. But if you want the bells and whistles, then you can go for the Galaxy S10 Plus. So let's start with the design. Very sleek. New colors. We have a prism white, as they call it there. Don't know why prism green as well on the E over here. And it comes in several different colors. A few more colors if you're over in America, actually. Edge-to-edge display with a cutout camera rather than a notch. So let's have a look. You have single cameras on the S10e and the S10. You have a double one on the S10 Plus. So as you can see here, Samsung tries to hide them with the wallpapers, but I've put a different wallpaper on the S10 Plus so you can see what the cutout is like there. You have the double cameras on the S10 Plus. So a way of looking at it, because there are also only two cameras on the back of the S10e compared to the three on the back of the other two phones. On the S10e, you have three overall cameras, S10, four overall cameras, and yep, you guessed it, S10 Plus, you have five. The best way to break it down is to think about which sensors they have to get technical for one moment. You have a 10 megapixel front-facing camera on all three phones, and then an 8 megapixel additional one on the S10 Plus. And then on the back, you have a 12 and a 16 megapixel camera on every single phone, and then the S10 and S10 Plus with those triple cameras have an extra 12 megapixel, which is a telephoto lens. So they all have, which is nice to see on the S10e, wide angle cameras, so you can fit in more of your shot should you want to. Let's have a little look at the S10e then, shall we? So this is a smaller device, kind of good for one-handed use, but it's still got an enormous screen, 5.8 inches. Now, this is a flat panel compared to the curved edges of the other S10 phones, so if you didn't like that, you're going to like this. And it doesn't compromise on much either. You actually have the Exynos 9820 in European markets across all three phones, and you have the Snapdragon 855 everywhere else in the world across all three phones. All three phones have OLED displays, admittedly only a 1080p panel on the E compared to the 1440 panels, which are slightly higher resolution, obviously, on the other two. But the E really isn't as much of a compromise as you might think. The design is just as premium, metal rim, glass on the back. It is Gorilla Glass 5 on the front, rather than 6 you get on the other two. So your money gets you subtler improvements on the S10s. The S10e is still very much a premium phone. Performance is really good. And you also get a physical fingerprint sensor on the E. You might like that. It's on the side, so your thumb rests like that. And something you can't do with the in-display fingerprint sensors on these other two is swipe down to get your notifications, which is a small nerdy thing, but we like it. Let's take a look at the ultrasonic fingerprint sensor then. Ultrasonic means it is different to the camera light versions that you had on, say, the Huawei Mate 20 Pro or the OnePlus 6T. It uses a slightly different technology. So you can see where my thumb is needed, I push down on it, unlocks the phone. It is quite good. It is still not as good, in my opinion, as a physical fingerprint sensor, but you're going to have to put up with it if you want it on the S10 and S10 Plus. All three phones also have face unlock, which is much better. I've just looked at it and it's open. It is potentially, you could describe it as a downgrade from the S9 series, however, because there's no bezel on these phones, which is awesome. But it also means that Samsung hasn't put in its infrared sensors to do its iris recognition. So the face unlock isn't secure enough for biometrics and for payments, whereas all three fingerprint sensors are. So we've had a look at the E. Let's have a look at the screen sizes of the S10 and the S10 Plus. So you have a 6.1 inch display on the S10, 6.4 over on the biggest S10 Plus here. And yeah, I have small hands. The S10 Plus is slightly too big for my hands, and there's no way I'm reaching the top of that screen. And with a bit of hand gymnastics, maybe we can. But the S10 is more comfortable to me than the S10 Plus. The advantages you're getting here on the S10 Plus are a bigger battery, a bigger screen, and those double front-facing cameras as well. Storage-wise as well, these are pretty premium phones. You have 6 gigabytes of RAM and 128 gig of storage on the S10e down there. But on these two, you have a whopping 8 gigabytes of RAM and 128 gigabytes of storage as standard. Bump the price up a little bit, and it's 512. Yes, half a terabyte in some mobile phones for you. Started, of course, on the Galaxy Note 9. There's also actually a special edition, which we do not have here, ceramic version of the S10 Plus, which has a whole terabyte. And it costs something ridiculous, like $1,600. So unless you're really into your storage and your special editions, you're only going to need the regular one. Let's have a little chat about battery then, because while it's good that all 3 of these phones have the Exynos chip in Europe, and we indeed have the Exynos version here, it's the one we reviewed. I've talked to a few of my friends who work for American publications, and they've had the Snapdragon 855 version, and if you're keen on the scene, then you will have seen that. 8-hour screen on time is not unusual for particularly the S10 Plus on the Snapdragon 855. Now, it just is not true of the Exynos versions. They do not have as good battery life at all, and for the S10e, unfortunately, it's a bit of a red mark because it's such a good phone otherwise, but in my testing, it really doesn't hold up. I'm seeing about 2.5 hours screen on time from pretty mediocre, medium style use. I'm not hammering the thing. In our battery test, it just did not last very long at all. And it's a real shame because out of all 3 of them, it really is the one that I worried about running out of power on. I will say that I didn't actually ever run out of power on it. I'll give it that. But the battery life is poor. And if you even skip the middle one and go straight to the S10 Plus, I was taking this thing out. Admittedly, I was roaming over in Spain with it, but the battery was not lasting at all. I was getting down to 20% by about 4 p.m. And comparatively, those 855 Snapdragons out there, they were doing way better, at least 6 hours. So it really is a bit of a worry for Samsung. We kind of understand why they have to do their own chips in their own phones in certain regions to keep that business for them viable. But it seems on the S10, unless that can be improved in any future software updates, these really are slightly disappointing on the battery front, and it's the main complaint I have about all 3 of them. A quick look at the specs will show you that you have 3100 milliamp hours on the E, 3400 on the regular S10, and then it actually goes up to 4100 on the S10 Plus. But still, it's a bit of a worry and something to bear in mind. So that's the negative thing out the way. Let's think about the positive thing. The best thing I can say about these phones is whichever one you pick, aside from battery life, you're going to be delighted. These perform like a dream. Out the box, this is the best experience we've ever had collectively here at TechAdvisor with a Samsung phone. Samsung phones do tend to slow down over time, but we are impressed with the fluidity of this one. One UI, which is based on Android 9 Pie, of course, is amazingly good, actually. And we never thought a few years ago we'd be saying this about a Samsung phone, given the weird, bloopy, water drop nonsense of some of those TouchWiz versions from the past. They called it Samsung Experience for a bit, but One UI is just a lot cleaner. We have a dark mode running on this one, which is nice to see across the UI, but you can also have it normal as well. But little things like that are things that Android fans, such as us, have been asking for quite a while, and Samsung's listened to the feedback and done it. The interface is much cleaner. You still get a lot of things where you're going to want to get rid of certain notifications from Samsung, and of course, our friend here. How you doing, Bixby?
Meow. I mean, no.
No, us neither. Bixby's not very good.
It doesn't.
Go away. And you're going to want to use Google Assistant where possible. Bixby is not good. But to be honest with you, I personally don't use assistants very much. And at least you have Google Assistant on here. But that ever-present Bixby button is on all 3 phones. So you can remap it to either open Bixby with 1 or 2 presses. So you can remap it to do a different thing with 1 press, which placates us for now. Another thing all 3 phones have is IP68 water and dust resistance. Samsung here proving that by putting one of these little things, yep, a headphone jack, in your phones does not mean you can't have every feature under the sun as well as full waterproofing. All 3 of these phones also have wireless power share. Now, That's something we originally saw with Huawei, but Samsung has done it now. So if we have a look here, I put that phone down and turn wireless power share on, put my other Qi chargeable phone on the top of it, and it charges away. It's quite slow. It's not going to supercharge one of your phones, and the best thing we can say about it is that if you have two devices, two phones, maybe some headphones, overnight you got that phone plugged in, face down, you put your other phone on top, two phones, one charger, that's great. Otherwise, it is a bit gimmicky, but it's going to be interesting to see where the technology goes. So this culminates in which one do I think you should buy? The best way for me to answer this is what I would buy with my money. I'm fortunate enough to be able to test these, and thank you very much to Samsung, Mobile Fun and Vodafone for the review units here. I would buy the normal Galaxy S10, the middle one, the one I called the Goldilocks Galaxy in my review. This is for a number of reasons. I do obviously say that the best battery life is in the S10 Plus, but when it's a bit subpar on all of them, I personally would go for a phone with my smaller hands that is smaller in the hand. But I do like the zoom lens on the back, the triple cameras. I actually quite like the curved screen. I know it's not for everybody. You don't get triple cameras and a curved screen in the S10e. And on this occasion, because the S10e did have markedly bad battery life, it would be the one that I am really most frustrated with. It should be technically the best in the lineup. You hardly sacrifice anything, but that battery life, it really bugged me, and it's a real shame. Screen quality and everything is brilliant. Performance is just as good. That battery life. So then the S10 Plus, you should go for this one if you want the one with the longest battery life, even if it's not as good as I want it to be. Double cameras on the front, by the way, are not wide angle cameras. It is actually just a crop thing, and also for depth effects and such. So you don't gain much by getting those double cameras. Otherwise, it's the largest screen you can get on a Galaxy S phone at the moment, until the Galaxy S10 5G comes later down the line, which has an even bigger screen, but we haven't seen that one yet. Pricing-wise, you're looking at £669 for the E, £799 for the S10, and £899 for the S10 Plus. Those are a bit more muddied when you look at contracts, and really it's going to depend on what you can afford at contract level, most likely. Dollars-wise, $749 for the E, $899 for the 10, and then for the 10 Plus, it's $1,000, $999. And you're going to pay more if you want any more storage as well. So these are expensive phones, but they are, in the UK at least, not quite as expensive as the equivalent Apple phones. So if you're an Android fan, you're a Samsung fan, these are great products. I've scored these 9, 9, and 8 out of 10 on TechAdvisor. Battery life is the main thing here. Hopefully, this has helped you some way into deciding which is the best S10 for you. And I'd love to know what you think as well, because while I have the privilege of looking at all of them, I want to know if you've had them, which one you're going to buy, what you think of them, and if you've got a Snapdragon 855 one as well, let me know how your battery life's been, because that is really of great interest to us, and we look forward to continuing this conversation in the comments below. Thanks very much for watching. Henry at TechAdvisor here. Please subscribe if you like what you've seen, and thanks again for watching.